Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews, the only show that's going to teach you
how to be somebody.
Where in your life did you learn that you're not good enough?
Take what you're most passionate about and what you're most fearful of, and what is the plan to overcome that fear, and what is the plan to enact that
friends. Hi. Hey, what's up?
Oh my gosh. Has anybody seen the commercial? My parents finally showed me it. Where everybody goes, hi, bye.
Nope.
Yes, it only plays in New Jersey.
I don't watch TV that much.
Funniest thing. Yeah, I guess so. We wouldn't see the commercial. But it's the funniest stinking thing. But I was in New Jersey this past week, Wednesday to Sunday, seeing my family and friends.
Yeah, New Jersey is just not the best state.
Oh, but the people in it are the best.
They're nice, but not really at all. I wouldn't say, in fact, I would actually say the opposite. When you describe people from New Jersey, you're not like, just nice people there. They're just nice people.
Well, it's like anywhere else. I mean, there's a lot more nice people in the Midwest, but I would say the Midwest is way more passive-aggressive.
My family.
No, I'm just saying people in general are way more passive-aggressive than the people out east. I would say are more in your face, like, I'm going to tell you how I feel
walk in here.
Yeah. When it comes to, like, being nice or something like that, I'd say that's, like, the big difference.
Yeah, that's what happens. So Marisa got back from New Jersey. I was in Michigan a few days earlier in this week, but we are back today now with our lovely cat, making sure she's wonderful. She'll be showing up today. So it's funny, we were, I don't know, which is an awesome week, all sorts of different conversations going on. And one of the things I kept noticing, was, have you ever tried to have a conversation with somebody, but it just, name calling happens, or people get in your face, or people feel super passionate. Yeah, but like, the idea of an argument at its very structure is so that you can pursue truth at some level. That's the whole point. So if you guys want to be authors, or you want to be podcast hosts, or you want to be able to explore ideas, you're going to have to be able to argue on behalf of those ideas to make sure that they get places. Well, every time I argue with people who typically aren't necessarily educated in this regard, they'll start to throw out what I call logical fallacies, right? So there's all sorts of different types of these logical fallacies, which I wanted to bring you guys into today because you're the same types of people that are going to be trying to seek truth. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to be right or wrong per se. We're trying to figure out what makes sense. How can we make sense of this world? And that's really the meat of today's conversation.
I think that is so important. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about, don't we all want to come to a common understanding of like, okay, this makes a little bit more sense than this. But then I guess on the other hand too, like, can people do that? Like,
I don't know.
Maybe some things just don't make sense to some people, or will never make sense to some people. I don't know. So that's a good question.
And that's fine because you all have a worldview, right? That's the show, Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews.
I guess you need to be a little more like open-minded to a lot of different broad beliefs and ideas to have like a very open-minded conversation where it's not this person's wrong, this person's right.
In fact, that's one of Ray Dalio's principles in his book. One of my favorites, always recommended to people, the book called Principles by Ray Dalio. And one of his is radical open-mindedness, right?
Oh, yes.
Radical open-mindedness. To think that your worldview at its fundamental level may be flawed or may be wrong is something you got to think about.
Yeah.
And the only way to get there is if we can have something called conversation, where we can agree to disagree, or we can have logical conversation going back and forth. And that's where I wanted to talk today about how to argue. So just for you guys jumping on, everybody coming into this right now, my name is Aaron Armstrong. I am the host of Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews podcast. I own the business Armstrong Ventures, which is where I do some motivational speaking, and I also work with leaders who are leaders of leaders to pursue and lead their lives in a new direction or lead their business in a new direction. And that is where I run this podcast, help market it, and I also work with people one-on-one. So this is my lovely wife, Marisa, bringing a fresh new perspective into this.
And I am Marisa Armstrong. I am the owner of Marisa's Fit Boutique, which is a one-on-one personal training studio or semi-private small group training studio right here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So if you are tuning in from Oshkosh, hello. I am right in the downtown at 13 Wagyu. I have the best address ever, Wagyu in Oshkosh. So
This
fun.
is our cat, Lola. Come here, Lola.
She doesn't want to be in the camera.
This is our cat, Lola. She's
very argumentative.
Whenever we get in discussions or heated discussions, Lola jumps in.
Oh, she
and makes
loves
sure
to
her
argue.
point is known. So she'll be coming on the show.
We raise
as well.
our voice like she's meowing at us at a whole nother level.
Yeah, she'll probably come on this podcast just for that, right? So awesome. So we want to talk about a couple different things and just some common things that I've been noticing as you try to have political conversations with people or philosophical conversations with people. You'll start to see that, first of all, if you ever run into someone that knows that they are right, like they are positive, 100% sure that they are right, watch out, because that is the person that does not have radical transparency. They do not have a radical understanding of this could be wildly different. Because what we're trying to do is create critical thinkers. And by being a critical thinker, you have to take facts or things from other places and admit fault and admit that you could be wrong at some point. So if you could go into every conversation you have thinking, I could be wrong, you've already started in an incredible place for learning.
And you've already set your ego to the side.
Yeah.
So you coming into a conversation knowing like, I'm going to prove this person right no matter what, it's your ego is taking over. It's all about you. It's not actually seeking any truth. It's all about, I need to know that I'm right to feel good about myself.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's what we got to start to figure out is how do we have conversations with each other, with our families, with our friends, with our colleagues.
Parties.
Yeah, it's just what we're seeing today in the news and all over the world is, frankly, a catastrophe. It's the fact that you can't even listen to another person's perspective right now because they're wrong. They're just already wrong, and you can't even hear it. You can't even humble yourself to say, what if I'm wrong? Is there some truth that could come out of it?
And the media does so let's go into the first one, because the media does the worst at this, where they just start name-calling. Both sides of any kind of argument just starts name-calling each other at the end, where it's like, wait a second, this doesn't even make sense anymore. Like, you're just belittling the person by calling them names that we were taught in maybe preschool not to do.
Yeah, so this is called an ad hominem fallacy, right? So an ad hominem fallacy means in Latin, attack against the man. That's where you start to call someone names to belittle their credentials, which has nothing to do with their argument. You're just trying to belittle their credentials, and that's eventually trying to undercut their argument. When in reality, that has no philosophical truth or logic behind it. So how many of you guys get in arguments with people and all of a sudden they're just like, you're just stupid, you're just dumb, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. You just went to this school or you don't know as much, blah. And it's like, that's noise. That is a logical fallacy. That's called an ad hominem fallacy, attack against the man. You got to start thinking about these things because we do them to other people as well. We're like, what do you know? You're dumb. You never played a game, or you never did this, or you never and then you start to attack the person instead of attacking the argument itself. And what we're trying to do here is teach people how to uncover truth, how to find out what is right in this world, what is the right answers, where do these come from. So in order to do that, we have to first understand that name calling is out of the question. I mean, you see this in politics all the time. You see it with our president, whether you like him or don't like him, people calling him names or whatever. It has nothing to do with what the policy is or if the merit behind it. It just has to do with, I'm going to call somebody a name because hoping that I can gauge some type of emotional appeal from somewhere else and disregard the logic. So that's the first one, ad hominem. This one comes up all the time with people.
So I guess go over like the fallacies, because again, this is something I learned in college through AJ that I was never taught, that we never went over in any kind of education or schooling that I went to. So what are these fallacies, like when you're in an argument that you can pinpoint that other people use?
Yeah, so a logical fallacy is something that's inconsistent with an actual logic hierarchy, which follows, pretty consistent. A plus B equals C, right? So A, therefore A equals C. There's different logical patterns, and that's a whole other science in philosophy in and of itself. However, when you start to see arguments that people are formulating in papers or on a podcast or in the news or in a conversation, you can start to find out where they're starting to pull in things that aren't logically consistent. And that's where you start to find logical fallacies. So, for example, we just went over our ad hominem fallacy. That's an attack against the man. There's another couple that we're going to go through today. Some of the common ones that I see is a straw man, right? So a straw man is a logical fallacy. That's where you are misrepresenting the opponent's argument. So a straw man fallacy is, we always know this one. It's like, so what you're saying is, so what you're saying is this.
So what you're actually saying
Oh,
is
so
like,
so you just say, so you're just saying this? And no.
So you really mean this?
No, that's not what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying.
That's probably the most frustrating one.
Yeah.
Then that other person is putting words in your mouth that you did not say, or is assuming things about what you said that you didn't say. That's honestly, it's probably the most frustrating ones. And again, you see that on the media all the time where they're interviewing somebody and they're like, oh, so you really mean this. And the other person's like, no I did not say that. That is not what I meant.
And they're putting, they pull in their own story and their own narrative behind a couple things that the person's saying, and they're trying to push a totally separate argument, which isn't fair or true. So those are two of the really common ones, right? So ad hominem, you're attacking the person for when you're talking about an argument. It's like, I'm gonna attack the author of this book so this book is garbage because the author's an idiot. That's an ad hominem. You have no idea. Does the argument make sense in a logical fashion or not? And then the other one is the straw man. Oh, what you're saying, or what that guy's saying, or what the book is saying, or what this is saying. No, you're misrepresenting the person's argument. That's a straw man. The opposite would be a steel man. So a good argument is actually where you try to build up the opponent's argument as sound as possible. That's a steel man. And then you have to go ahead, so it makes sure that, first of all, you really understand the opponent's argument in detail. Like if you could go write a book about the opposing argument in detail, that means that you are really prepared now to try to take that argument down. That's even elevating your ability to pursue truth. So we had ad hominem, the first one. The second one, straw man, misrepresenting the argument. And obviously the opposite of a straw man is a steel man. That's pretty easy to remember. Steel would be hard to take down. Straw is very easy to take down, right? So does that make sense to everybody so far? Because I think that, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm following.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of other ones, right? So another one that we see a lot, and this is probably one of the more common ones, is slippery slope. And you see this in the news, in the media, all the time, especially when it comes to like foreign policy or something like that.
The world's ending now.
Yeah, it's like, well, if this person does that, then this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen, and then this will happen.
And then the world's going to explode.
And then the world ends, right? So we got Joe Brown on. Joe Brown knows everything about logical fallacies because he's one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. So Joe, you can give a like for that comment. But but you see this all the time with the slippery slope fallacy. This is like when you're a teenager and you go into, you're telling your parents, well, if I don't go to the party, I'm going to have no friends. If I have no friends, I'm going to get really depressed. If I get really depressed, I'll get bad grades. I won't get into college. If I won't get into college, I'll be living in your basement. Boom. And it's just like, well, where did that all come from? Well, that came from a logical fallacy that ended up happening, right? So
that's like when your parents tell you you're doing something and you're going to poke your eye out, and if you poke your eye out, you're going to be blind for the rest of your life, and if you're blind for the rest of your life, you're not going to be able to get a job, and if you can't get a job, you're going to be living at home for the rest of your life.
But you see this a lot with foreign policy, like, oh, if we decide to invade this country, then this leader is going to do that, and then if this leader does that, then this will happen, and you get into this fictitious chess match with yourself where you're trying to predict all these different moves that are unlikely or may not even happen at all. There's no logical consistency with it. So slippery slope, ad hominem, straw man. We there so far? We got
3 fallacies so far. Number 4.
Another one.
What's another way you can totally just disrupt an argument?
I'm trying to think. So another one we get a lot is a false dilemma. If you ever see that one, it's like a this or that type of thing, like a black and white. So if you're talking about like Leonard Skinner so if you wanted to make an argument that Leonard Skinner's the greatest band ever, false dilemma would be something like, if you don't like Leonard Skinner, then you don't like music. It's just like, what does that have to do with anything, right? And it's just funny, like some people will say that in satire for things, but when you actually start to think about what the fallacy is, it's like, does that have any logic? If somebody doesn't like Leonard Skinner, does that mean that they don't like music? It's like, that's a false dilemma. So you're presenting something like, oh, wow, so somebody doesn't like music. So if somebody doesn't like Leonard Skinner, then they don't like music. And some dumb people may agree to that. And that's what we're trying to prevent. Don't be a dumb person. We want you guys to be enlightened, educated, so you can start to argue things on your behalf as you go. But you see this one all the time. It's a this or that. When really there's options B, C, D, E, F, G. It's not just options A or B all the time. Sometimes there are a lot of other things to consider. So I see that one all the time.
So give one more example for that one.
Sure, a false dilemma. So try to make an argument. I don't know. Argue something.
The cat is orange.
That's just a fact.
Okay. You're not going to argue with me on that one? That's how argumentative I am.
The cat is, we'll say orange tabbies are the best cats.
Okay,
that
orange
a person
tabbies
could
are the
buy.
best cats ever.
Orange tabbies are the best cats ever. So that's the argument that we're trying to make. An example of a false dilemma would be if, like, orange tabbies are the best cats ever. So an orange tabby, if you don't like an orange cat, then you're not an animal. Well, that'd be actually a straw man. A straw man would be like, so you're saying that you don't like cats if you don't like I'm thinking I'm butchering this one. So you have a cat.
Uh-huh.
I have a cat. She's
Yes.
orange.
Yes.
I love orange cats.
I love orange cats. They're the best cats. That's what I stated to you.
Yes.
And you don't agree with me.
Yeah, so the false dilemma would be if you don't like orange cats, then you're not a cat lover.
Okay.
It's like a this or that kind of thing.
Gotcha. So, okay.
And then a straw man would be like, hey, I really like orange cats. And then it's just like, oh, so what you're saying is you're an animal lover. It's like, well, no, I just like orange cats. It's not saying I'm an animal lover. That would be a straw man. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Like the difference there? Okay. So far, so good, right? So we see a lot of these. I'm trying to give like simple examples, but it's really easy when you start like listening to other people's conversations, and when they try to get really into it, they'll start to put together fake scenarios. So that's another one, which is equivocation. So that's a good fallacy we could go over, an equivocation fallacy. This is like an apples to oranges comparison that people will do. So I'm comparing, I don't know, we just saw one a little while ago. It was on the vaccine debate. So this is always a really exciting topic to talk about. And actually, I think this is something that should be talked about. It's not that I have an opinion one way or another if I agree or disagree with vaccines. Okay? I don't know if they're good or bad. I'm going to say right here on this podcast that I'm completely neutral. I have no idea if they are good or bad. I've heard good arguments for and against them. And the problem is people always sit there and they jump in and they say stuff like, you're an idiot, ad hominem, if you think that vaccines are bad. You're an idiot if you think that vaccines are good. You're an idiot. It's just like that. Okay, so that's an ad hominem right now. Okay, so it's a huge problem to me when people are so sure of something they're so sure of something that they can't open their mind to anything, because that's eventually what's going to end up becoming the downfall.
Or even look at the other side.
Yeah, it's like a cult. That's the issue. If you can't look at two sides of it and or 3 or 4, 5, 6 sides of things and put it all together, you're going to end up following into like a cult-like pattern. So it's like, how do we end up challenging the beliefs, challenging something new and unique? So I just saw one on there. It was something like it had something to do with like, somebody said, I watch forensic files a lot. That's like going to saying, I know a lot about forensic science because I watch forensic files. Therefore, I know a lot about forensic science. So that's like that's the start of the sentence, right? So we have, I watch a lot of forensic science or a lot of forensic files. I know a lot about forensic science because of that. That's a stupid argument, and therefore, if that's like saying, because I research a lot about vaccines, I know as much as a medical philosopher or a medical professional, right? So there's two arguments there that are not the same. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so you have, let's say, okay, so I watch a lot of forensic files. Therefore, I know a lot about forensic science. That's a dumb argument. And now it's saying, I research a lot about vaccines. Therefore, I think I know a lot about vaccines.
Gotcha. Okay, yep.
And that's like saying you're taking this argument of forensic files being the same thing against a vaccine that's different, right? So you're comparing apples to oranges. So not to get everybody all spun up on this whole vaccine issue, but I'm saying that it's a conversation that we can talk about, and we should talk about, and that's how we pursue truth, or in any respect. And when we're trying to cut down a conversation or just rip it out of the discussion or immediately shut somebody down based on a logical fallacy, that's the issue. If we can have progressive logical discussions to uncover truth, those are the types of things that we're trying to find out here. So if you're finding yourself like you can't get a sentence out before someone decides to just cut that down and immediately remove it, then you're starting to find out that this person is refuting the ability to progress through the levels of truth that you're trying to uncover. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it was a bad example, but
no, it's not a bad example. I definitely followed along, but I think it's super important, because then that person automatically is just going to be very closed-minded to any opinion or belief that you have that you can share with them and enlighten them about. Or maybe kind of give them more examples of just another perspective, which I think is super important, because today nobody wants to hear the other side. Everybody's so set in stone with their way, and we don't know how to argue anymore. And it's not like arguing is a bad thing. Debates are really good. That's how we get things done. That's how we become, That's how we become more educated. And that's how we become more rounded.
Well, why do you think, like, the founding fathers of this great nation, USA, right? Why do you think the founding fathers put the #1 amendment as the freedom of speech? That's a very intelligent move to make that the #1. The reason it's the freedom of speech is because we have to have thoughtful disagreements, and we have to be able to disagree with each other on things. And that's really where it comes in. So the freedom of speech is just that. It's the ability to argue logically and consistently so you can uncover and solve problems and come up with ideas. That's the whole idea. And it's like that we need to be able to have those discussions. And it's disgusting what I'm seeing today in America and what I'm seeing all over the place when you have people that are trying to challenge something or ask a question, and they're just getting shot down immediately by people that are not experts. Or you're also having the opposite happen. You're having people that claim to be experts that are not experts. And that's fine. I think that's part of the discussion that needs to happen, but you can vet those things out accordingly. It's when you do not allow those things to happen that we end up falling into issues. You start falling into things that you see in like Nazi Germany and all those different issues, is when you can't speak, you can't bring up issues, you can't talk about it without getting shut down. When I see things like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google, it's trying to censor discussions around things like that, it becomes a huge issue to me, because how else are you supposed to uncover what true really is? And I have no political affiliation with any of my shows or anything, but I think that we really need to be able to ask ourselves the hard questions, so we can really start to ask the whole world hard questions, so we can actually solve problems, because that's how problems are solved. Yes. And it's when you start to blindly put your faith into somebody else, whether that's in the medical industry or whether it's in the freaking automotive industry. I don't really care. Politics, whatever. When you're starting to put blind faith into somebody, you're going to start to have an issue, because you're not challenging the status quo, you're not critically thinking, and you're becoming a freaking sheep. And we are not sheeps on this podcast. We're not sheeps as people that are listeners of this show. We are leaders. We are here to blaze a trail in a new direction. We're here to come up with new thoughts, progressive ideas, inventive solutions to all sorts of types of things in this world.
Why do you think science always changes? Why do you think the health industry always changes? Because people question the protocol. Then we have a new and a better way to do things. People question that protocol. Then we have a new and better way to do things. Our healthcare system is not the same from like 1700s. There's just other ways we've just progressively gone up, because we've just questioned things along the way. Maybe for the good, maybe for the bad. Who knows? But I think that's why it is so important to just question. And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with asking questions? Nobody should be offended by you asking a few questions. You're willing to learn more, and I think that's a good thing. If you're asking questions, you're willing to be open-minded. You're willing to take on more knowledge. Yeah. It's the people who get offended by you asking questions who don't want to know anymore. So they already know everything. And those are scary. That's a very scary person to talk to.
Yeah, be afraid of the people who think they know everything. And that's what I'm saying. I'm actually saying the opposite. I don't think I know everything. I think I know nothing. That's what Socrates says, right? All I know is that I know nothing. There's so much information out there to make it very difficult to make hard decisions around ethics, around philosophy, around politics, around whatever your practicing beliefs are. It's very difficult to make those decisions. So educate yourself. Take ownership, educate yourself. Don't just blindly follow anybody. I think it's disgusting that we live in a society right now where you can blindly follow your doctor, but you can't blindly follow your faith. I mean, what is wrong with that? You can't tell me right now that it's okay that I can put all of my faith and everything into some type of pharmaceutical company or a doctor, whatever he says, but then I can't put my faith into Jesus, or I can't put my faith into my religion. I mean, it's just disgusting that people are like that. But it's like, if I want to declare that we got a little bit back here.
She's on board, clearly.
Yeah, she always cuts me out when I'm really on a roll, but no.
Keep going.
But that's really what it's all about, guys. It's about, where are you starting to put your blind faith into, and is that really the things that are serving you? You want to put your blind faith into things that are higher up, that are serving. If you're worshiping or idolizing some type of individual, one argument, one perspective, and you're only going to believe them, if you watch one show, one news station, one person, one opinion, you are limiting yourself to truth. And if you limit yourself to truth, you'll never be a leader, because leaders have to go out above and beyond, change the status quo, and go in a totally new direction. That's what we are. We're trying to lead your life, lead your business, lead anything around you. You need to be able to challenge something, and you need to be able to reject it. And if you're the first one out there, you're going to have to be able to problem solve and take all the facts into consideration and make the best decisions. So guys, I'm really encouraging you to learn how to make an argument, be able to decipher those different types of logical fallacies that we kind of went over. You can Google them, they're all over the place. I mean, I just went over a couple here, but we could go all night on these different ones. And if you guys wanted to get an argument today, it's the best way to shut someone up in an argument or really piss them off is when you start calling out all their different logical fallacies when you're starting to have a conversation with them.
Go over them one more time.
Okay, so we just had a couple. We have ad hominem, that's attack against the man. You're insulting the person for the argument. Name calling, right? Yeah, that's a good one. You're discrediting the person that's trying to argue. The second one was a straw man. We see this one all the time. You're misrepresenting the person's argument. So what you're saying is this, oh, you're just saying this, or you're just one of these people, or you're just that. No, that's a straw man. You're just completely discrediting the actual argument itself. Another one, the slippery slope. That one's a little more self-explanatory. This plus this plus this plus this equals world's ending, right? That's a slippery slope. Equivocation fallacy. That's when you're comparing apples to oranges, and you're trying to say, because apples, then oranges. And it's like, no, that's not how it works, right? And we had a couple examples that I butchered on that one. And then we have a false dilemma. That's an if this, then that. It's a that's not how it always works. It's A and B. Like it's a totally different scenario. So false dilemma, you're trying to put together something that doesn't exist. But there's a whole bunch of other ones we could go over. Circular arguments, right? I mean, we see that one all the time. It's when you're saying, that would be something like people do with the Bible all the time, right? They say, well, I believe that the Bible is true because the Bible says it's true. Okay, so you're assuming something on behalf of the first assumption. That would be something that doesn't make sense logically, right? So you want to start to have those types of conversations. People do this all the time in a circular argument. But I mean, we could go on and on and on. What's another one I always talk about? But it's just like, you guys got to understand that these people have all sorts of beliefs. And when they blindly start following Jason's on right now, you become a sheep. When you start blindly following somebody else's direction without challenging, without critically thinking, without being able to decipher what they're saying, without challenging it or asking the question, you become a sheep. And what I'm starting to see today in America, online, on social media, all these different places, is we have a lot of sheep. We're not sheep in this podcast, guys. We are leaders. We're trying to become people of status. We're trying to become people of new direction. We're trying to pioneer a new thing where people can follow behind and learn from us and leave legacies. You don't do that by following somebody else's blind orders. You do it by challenging what makes sense. And you could challenge anything, right? Challenge it, it might make sense. You might fall in line. This might be the best path. But you can also challenge it and say there might be a different way. And the only way to do that is to really understand where they're coming from and really understand the motives and the logic behind it. So I gave you some tools now where you guys can go research. I mean, there's probably 20, 30 of these different types of fallacies you guys can look up on your own. And it's really fun to argue with these people when you try to figure out attack against the man, got you there. Straw man, got you there. And you can start to actually formulate your own ideas and opinions around types of things. So this is awesome, guys. It fires me up when I have people like that critically think the challenge. Like, I'm not pushing any agenda. You should critically think everything I'm saying. You should disagree with stuff I'm talking about. And we can have a good conversation. And then we can disagree together and eventually emerge to some type of higher level analysis that was better than what we could have both come up with on our own.
Yes.
And that's the idea, is by having conversations, we can emerge to a better idea. And that's really where we're trying to go.
Not just hate each other for it.
Yeah, who cares, dude? Guys, really, do we care?
That's what we've become to. That's what most of our society is. Like, we now hate each other for our opposing beliefs or our opposing arguments.
What is wrong?
How are we supposed to get to a new level of thinking if we can't even discuss it with the opposite side anymore? We can't even have the conversation.
I agree.
They're shutting down the conversation. They're shutting down that new level of thinking. It's nuts. It's totally nuts.
So if people ever tell you to stop asking the question, that's the first red flag. You got to be able to ask the question. You got to be able to ask the question. I love how Jason disagrees with this. This is great. Let's freaking disagree right here. I mean, that's what this is all about. That's
My
what
sister already started an argument with me. I'm wearing her sweatshirt. It took home. Not accidentally, because it's really comfy. I see her in a month, but she's pretty pissed.
There's a bunch of other ones too, like red herring, like fallacy. It's when you try to totally derail the conversation into something else. My family's notorious for this one. It's like, oh, it's getting heated. Let's try to change the subject. Or it's, oh, you're just saying this now, and let's move into this, and we'll just analyze this little piece of the argument when you're missing the bigger thing.
Well, a lot of people are. I mean, a lot of people do that. I mean,
everybody
happens
does it, yeah.
in actually the almost every family.
I do it a lot. I love when people don't know what logical fallacies are. I try to use them sometimes, but it's like that's not progressing my idea. That's not progressing anything. You're not going anywhere. You're just being right to be right, and that's where ego comes in. I'm not just trying to be right to be right. I'm trying to be right because I think this is the best way to do something. And those are the conversations we got to have. So people are trying to silence you. They're trying to silence your opinions. That's an issue. When you can't ask the question because someone says the question is bad, that's a problem. And I'm starting to see that with a lot of different issues we're seeing in the political spectrum today. We're starting to see it in philosophy. We see it all over the place. Be able to ask the hard questions. Ask the hard questions. I think it's okay. We got to be able to have those. Shit, you can talk about aliens existing or not existing, right? I don't really care what the question is. The fact is we don't have a lot of information, which is also another fallacy. That's the ignorance fallacy, right? It's when you say, well, I haven't seen extraterrestrials, therefore they don't exist. That's an ignorance fallacy. There's also hasty generalization fallacy. That's all people are all like I hear people say this one all the time, like, in the holistic medicine side of things, they're like, all doctors are dopey and dumb and don't understand. Like, that makes no sense. Why? How could doctors be dumb? And like, no. Like, that's just a hasty generalization. So we see those types of fallacies. And it's just, how do we start to figure out which are the right ones and which aren't? So, and I will absolutely come back to Wisco Rhea when we can rock and roll. Jason, go freaking big, dude. Because if you guys want to go Wisco Rhea, if you want to get investing into real estate, join your local RIA. If you're in the Wisconsin area, go to Jason's right here in Appleton, Wisconsin. He'll hook you up. Go to jasonlunt.com.
That's a pretty abrupt plug-in.
Yeah, well, it's awesome. If you guys jump on and comment stuff, I'll plug you. I don't care. Like, that's what this is all about. Yeah, jump on, plug you. It goes to the podcast. You guys get free publicity on the podcast. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what we're trying to do. Just share love and try and encourage each other in their businesses. So. But that's what we had to talk about, guys. It's seriously, we just want to let you know that there's all sorts of different ways you can have an argument. And the best way is to make sure you're logically consistent, because that's the only way we're going to progress our own ideas and agenda in a way that's safe, in a way that's logical, in a way that makes sense. So I really appreciate everything that you guys do. I appreciate all the comments today. This has been awesome. Tons of engagement today. But if you have any questions, feel free to shoot right here. Shoot me a message at DM. You can email me, info@aaronjarmstrong.com. There's some pretty awesome announcements I have for you guys. That's pretty cool coming up here. So on March 20th, March 20th, I will be speaking at the Howard in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And this is free. You just got to sign up and get a ticket. So you got to go to youngentrepreneurswi.com. And you can get a free ticket. I'm paying for the food. I'm sponsoring this event. It's awesome.
Bowling too?
Bowling too. Free bowling, free food. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So you guys can come do that if you'd like. You can hang out, we can talk, and we can have arguments, right?
Which is a good thing. It's just such a good thing.
The other thing I wanted to mention too is a lot of you guys, like, obviously I wear my Armstrong Ventures gear all the time because I just branding, man, Like, I'm not hiding anything. It's just like you guys see me with my hat, my shirt on all the time. Like, that's my brand. I want to make sure if I get a picture taken of me that I got my hat or my shirt.
He has a long sleeve version. He has a cutoff version. He has a polo version.
Marisa calls it my uniform.
His uniform.
But I don't know. A couple of you guys, you shot me messages. You were asking. You said, "Hey, how do I get a hat?" And that my hats are cool now. So on the front, it's got the logo. On the back, it says "Be Somebody," which is awesome. And that's what I want you guys to start sharing is how do we share this brand with other people? Like, go be somebody. So I got a shop right now. You can go on my website, aaronjarmstrong.com. You can click shop, or you can go to armstrongventuresshop.com and you can buy any type of gear and merchandise you want now that says "Be Somebody." I've got a mug that says "Coffee Buffet" on it because it's freaking hilarious. Because everywhere you go, there's a coffee buffet these days. But yeah, so a lot of cool announcements coming up, and I'm really excited of where we're going, where this business is going. And if you guys want to join in or collaborate or do anything, let me know, because we got to get ourselves moving in the right direction.
Or if you disagree with something we're doing, call us out on it.
Yeah, call us out. Let's try to get the right answer. I don't know. I mean, people shit on my Instagram almost daily. So
well, there's a difference between shitting on somebody, because that's probably some kind of fallacy somewhere, or actually giving like, hey.
Like, look at this guy's beard. He's a freaking loser. Losers grow beards. I don't know. Oh. That's something my dad would say.
Bulls wants to be the shot.
But yeah. So.
Okay, we're going to go go eat dinner.
See you guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Lola, wave. See you guys.